All right, so let's take another look at position time graphs and how to get to a velocity time graph from there. So when I get stuck, one of the easiest things that I always try to do is I try and pick apart the graph and I look at very specific locations on the graph in order to make it helpful to kind of break it down into smaller pieces. Smaller pieces are normally easier to work with, so we're going to work with as small pieces as we can. So I'm going to go section by section. So if you notice all the way over here, we've got a good section to work with. So we're just going to look at this very first section here. So if you notice in this first section, my line is really, really flat. So going back to last unit where we were talking about constant velocity, we know that flat horizontal lines on position time graphs mean the object isn't moving. So in that scenario, when our object isn't moving, we have a velocity of 0. So remember that flat lines means 0 velocity. So now, we have 0 velocity in this first section here. So I'm just going to plot that point and kind of work with it here. So I notice here, we've got 0 velocity. So it's on the point where 0 is. And I've kind of made that a little bit thicker so we can see it a little bit clearer. So now we're going to look at our next section. So you notice in this next section here, my line starts to get a little bit steeper. So my velocity has to start getting a little bit, has to have an increase, needs to start getting a little bit bigger. So you notice that my line that I drew gets a little bit steeper as I'm getting a little bit higher. And as we continue to work through our graph, notice that my line is getting steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper. So it's pretty shallow here, gets a little bit steeper here, it's even more steep here. So my velocity needs to continue to get larger and larger and larger as time goes on.